China's coffee story is getting interesting. Tim Hortons just came to China. Chinese people call it Tims. Well, actually, learning phonics is relatively new here, so most people call it Teams. But not only that, Nayuki, the high-quality tea place that I mentioned in the video where I made fun of Bloomberg, is now serving coffee. Not only that, Coco is now serving coffee. And not only that, Tim Hortons has donuts. I'm sorry, I know that was unrelated, but you don't know how exciting that is for me. China doesn't really do donuts. Well, they do, but to be honest, I'm not really sure why they bother. They aren't good. And don't tell me this is catering to Chinese tastes. It's okay. Chinese food caters to Chinese tastes. And it's awesome. No, the donuts are just made poorly. They look nice, they taste awful. The best equivalent I can think of is fortune cookies. Would you say they cater to American tastes? No, you'd say they suck and no one likes them. They just look cool. Same as donuts here. Anyway, back on track, I've been diving deeper and deeper into this coffee rabbit hole and learned some interesting things. First, who here has tried Yunnan coffee? Give me a show of hands in the comments. Yunnan coffee has been around for actually quite a while at this point, but it hasn't reached the notoriety of other coffee producing regions. Not only do they need to learn the processing techniques, but similar to tea, it takes a while of growing tea or coffee in a particular area before it reaches its peak quality. As I mentioned in the Nitro Coffee video, currently you can buy Yunnan coffee beans for dirt cheap. A kilo of coffee for under $10. But that's changing. Some roasters are already charging similar prices for local coffee that they do for imported coffee. It's easier and easier to find light roast Yunnan coffee from reputable roasters. Side note, the importance of that is dark roast coffee is generally like, you don't need to taste the coffee, just taste that, that like heavily roasted burnt flavor. And the lighter the roast, the more quality the bean needs to be in order to have it actually taste good. So having light roast Yunnan coffee beans now is pretty interesting. China has been preparing for this boom for a while. Since about 1989 to be specific. Well, according to Wikipedia. Do with that what you will. If you want to see what seems to be coming, we can take a look at the beer industry for comparison. A while back, my buddy and I started looking into making a documentary about China's beer industry. We collected a ton of information, and one metric that really stuck with me is that Snow beer is the best-selling beer in the world. I was going to use that as like the topic sentence of the entire documentary. Have you ever heard of Snow beer? Probably not. Yet they sell twice as much as Budweiser, which is literally in every country. That's why basically every company wants to be in China. It's a huge market. So what happens when the world's biggest market starts consuming coffee the same way it consumes tea and beer? The world runs out of coffee. So I've heard that is why Yunnan has ramped up its coffee production. They're supplying the Chinese market. So with the Chinese coffee market exploding and competition constantly rising and teams now rapidly opening in China, where does Luckin Coffee fit in? Luckinly, wait, didn't I make that stupid joke before? Whatever. Luckinly, they've still got a trick up their sleeves. Let me introduce you to Lingyi City. Wait, let me look up the tones, hold on. Lingyi City, Shandong Province. Ever heard of it? Neither have I. That's because they're not one of the big cities that everyone's heard about. They're a little known, newly upgraded as of this year to Tier 2 from Tier 3, prefectural city of only 11 million people. Just your average, little known 11 million people city. It's a city with a first-tier population, second-tier infrastructure, and third-tier economy. For comparison, Shandong Province is also where Qingdao is, the city where the beer comes from. They're a Tier 1 city of almost 7 million people. For another comparison, my girlfriend is from a tiny village in a tiny city in Guangdong Province, of just over 1.1 million people. Did I mention the Chinese market is huge? The only reason I know about Lingyi is because I posted on Weibo about my recent obsession with Luckin Coffee, And when I went to tag them, I noticed that they had a main account as well as specific city accounts. So I tagged a few of them. To my pleasant surprise, the Lingyi account liked my post, thanked me for it, and added me as a friend. Dope! So after some more digging and looking around and fishing for information, I finally understand how this system works. Luckin essentially has an ambassador program where if you bring Luckin Coffee to your city, they will kind of hold you up on a pedestal. You are the person who brought Luckin to this city, and they let you represent them for that city. So that's what this guy did. He opened 11 Luckin Coffees in Lingyi City, and they gave him permission to open this Luckin Coffee Weibo account so he can advertise and represent Luckin Coffee for that city. And they kind of use him as an example now of like, look at this success story. This guy has he spent 5 million RMB opening 11 stores. Not only are all of his stores still in business all the way through COVID, but he's also made back his initial investment and is looking to do more at this point. He's followed this situation very closely, and in his opinion, yes, Luckin Coffee may be just one of the crowd in the big cities like Shenzhen, Beijing, and Shanghai. They're not as extravagant as M Stand or Arabica, but what they do have is hundreds of locations in Tier 3 and Tier 4 cities. Like I mentioned before, Luckin Coffee is introducing new people to coffee, rather than riding the waves of people who are already interested and trying to compete for that market. While the big cities in China are indeed huge, Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Chengdu, Chongqing, Hangzhou, Wuhan, Nanjing, Tianjin, Suzhou, Xi'an, Changsha, Shenyang, Qingdao, Zhengzhou, Dalian, Dongguan, and Ningbo. Basically every city in China that you've potentially heard of before have a total population of around 200 million, give or take. Remember, China's population is almost 1.4 billion. What kind of coffee do you think that the other 1.2 billion people are drinking? Are you starting to get an idea of why Luckin Coffee wants to keep their costs down? In a city like Shanghai, it's okay to spend $5 on a cup of coffee. But in a city like Lingyi, or an even smaller city, that's asking too much. Nobody's gonna buy it. It's the same with the beer situation, which is why Xuehua, or snow beer, that beer we were talking about earlier, costs about 50 cents, the same as a bottle of water. So, knowing all of that, let's check out Tim Horton, Teams. It's a really standard cup of coffee. Nothing that surprises me and makes me go, oh my god. But really similar to Luckin's, honestly.
About 4 times the price.
That is true. It's pretty much the same price as Starbucks. That is true. In fact, it's basically is Starbucks, but they have donuts, so there's no reason to ever go to a Starbucks. That kind of brings me back to my earlier question of, this feels like a Mr. Donut donut, and if it actually is a Mr. Donut donut... don't interrupt me. As I was saying, what is Starbucks doing to gain customers other than exist?
Is it good?
Okay, good, but not as good as a Mr. Donut donut. So disappointing. But still good because they don't have Mr. Donut here anymore. Still good.
Yeah.
All right, chocolate donut. I'm a little worried because it's like rock hard. Really disappointing. It tastes like a donut. It's also kind of dry. And like, maybe I just have too high of expectations because I'm used to going to like donut shops and not like Yum Yum donuts. But like, it looks like a grocery store donut in the US. I had higher expectations for Tim Horton. This one's way better. And that's it. After all that, this is exactly what I expected. Like, It's fine. I would go if I wanted to get coffee and donuts. But I would never go out of my way to come back. But that's the thing. It feels like a novelty. There's really no good reason to go. It's not amazing. It's not cheap. It's okay. I did notice that Tencent also invested in this place. You'd have to be blind not to notice. But it kind of seems like they just want to dip their toe into everything so that when one makes the big money, they aren't left behind. Oh, and sorry about it having been forever since I last posted. For some reason, this video took way longer than it should have. The next Luckin challenge should be interesting though. We're going to a tier 3 city location, and it won't be 2 weeks this time.